Laser sights increase confidence regardless of experience level, whether you're learning the fundamentals or overcoming aging eyes. Crimson Trace, making laser sight standard equipment. Visit crimsontrace.com to find a dealer near you.
This is Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, now available on iTunes and other podcast clients, and on the free Gun Dealio smartphone app for iPhone and Android. Feel free to call Tom now at 1-TOM-TALK-GUN or 866-825-5486, or email Tom at guntalk.com. Now, once again, here's Tom.
All right, welcome back to Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. And a weird, we can't possibly be wrong, even though we're bleeding all over the floor, move, the Democrats continue to push gun control. You would think, and I firmly believe that is one of the reasons, one of the many reasons, but definitely one of the reasons that Hillary Clinton was defeated, was her constant banging on the gun control drum. Gun bans this, gun bans that, waiting periods this, magazine limits that, I mean, on and on and on. There wasn't a gun control law that she didn't believe in. And so the Democrats would say, well, that can't possibly be right because we know that everybody wants more gun control, right? So what do? Now in Virginia, we've got this race. Got Ed Gillespie and Ralph Northam. Well, Gillespie has been endorsed by the NRA. Ralph Northam has been not only endorsed, but he's been funded, at least in some large measure, by Michael Bloomberg. Northam is a gun banner. He has called for gun rationing. He wants to ban the most popular firearms being sold in Virginia. And so this is once again a test bed of when will the Democrats learn that they lose when they run on gun control? I don't know, but the election is Tuesday. It's a big deal. If you're in Virginia, get out the vote. Take the people out there. If you have friends in Virginia, call them, contact them, tell them be sure to vote. And they really need to get behind Ed Gillespie simply because Northam is a gun banner. And he makes no bones about it. He's open about it. It's kind of like Hillary Clinton. Yes, I want to ban guns. Yes, I'm proud that the NRA is my enemy. Wait, 5 million Americans, you're proud that you're calling them the enemy? Weird. Very, very weird. All right. It reads like this: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Never were so many words debated so many times by so many people. Oh, my gosh. Well, one of the guys who can really understand this, he argues it. He goes to court and represents people on gun issues, but also teaches this in law school, is Don Kilmer. He's been doing this for a long time. He is one of the lights in the academic world of guns. Don, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, one among many. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much, Tom. But no, if I shed any light, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely. We have had some great ones, but not to make light of what you have done. You have been there doing that, and you're doing it in the belly of the beast right out there in California. We were just having a discussion earlier, before I get into anything else, with people saying, well, the Second Amendment is still confusing, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, no, actually, I don't think it is anymore. I think the Supreme Court's pretty well cleared that up. But am I right? Am I just being hopeful?
No, I think you're right. The attempt to insert ambiguity into the Second Amendment is not done very well linguistically. If you read Heller, Antonin Scalia, almost like I think my 8th grade English composition teacher, kind of diagrams the whole sentence for you and explains what each clause means and what the comma stands for and the common meaning of the words. That's the whole beauty of the Heller decision, is that the Heller is not just a case about the Second Amendment. It's a case that can teach you how to interpret constitutional text. That's why it's such a beautiful piece of legal writing.
One of the things I mentioned earlier, and I think a lot of people still don't understand that, is they said, well, Heller was a 5-4 decision. I said, yes, it was. I said, but on the issue of the people, of this being an individual right, it was a 9-0 decision. Am I correct?
You are correct, and that's somewhat overlooked. I mean, one of the things I heard your introduction as I was waiting on the line here. You were celebrating the fact that Mrs. Clinton is not getting to make policy, and that she's not able to appoint justices to the Supreme Court. Don't forget that part of her campaign rhetoric, or anti-gun campaign rhetoric, was that she was convinced, remember she's a trained lawyer, she was convinced that Heller was wrongly decided.
Correct.
Which meant that she would try and appoint justices to the Supreme Court that would attempt to overturn Heller. This is a deeper problem than just a disagreement about gun policy. This goes to the core of what does our Constitution mean? The idea that the courts should be politicized and that all you have to do is count noses. You're correct when you point out that the fundamental issue in Heller is whether it's an individual right or some sort of collective right was a 9-0 decision. The issue that was that the other four justices came down on was, well, but how much can the government then regulate? All the way from an endorsement of a complete ban or some sort of balancing test. And the primary ruling from Heller, at least that should be instructive to judges, is that it doesn't matter what a judge thinks is good policy today. The policy was set down in 1791. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And Scalia set forth in the Heller opinion that doesn't mean that felons get to have guns. It doesn't mean that dangerous and unusual firearms are going to be allowed, which is that's the retort to somebody who says, oh, well, if you believe in the right to keep and bear arms, and you must think people, everyday citizens, should have nuclear weapons. No, that's not covered.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I love on your website, by the way, it's dkgunlaw.com. You have the quote, I read it earlier, I had a little fun with it. And I said, here's the quote from Donald Trump, and I read the whole thing. I said, oh, wait, that's not Donald Trump. That was JFK.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, JFK says that I believe the Second Amendment will always be important. What happened between 1960 and now, Don?
Well, there's several. I don't know how long we have, but there are several answers to that question. One of them being is that whether John F. Kennedy would be a welcome member in the Democratic Party today is a whole separate topic that I imagine we could take up outside of your gun talk. But there was a time in this country's history, and the evidence for this is almost overwhelming, because one question I get often is that, well, why isn't there any case law regarding the Second Amendment until 2008? Well, there was one U.S. Supreme Court case in the 1930s that was trying to interpret the National Firearms Act, and the history of the Miller decision is fascinating in and of itself. Mr. Miller was a guy who was trying to avoid the prohibition laws. We don't even have prohibition anymore. They couldn't get him on operating an illegal still, but they found a sawed-off shotgun in his truck, and they prosecuted him under that provision. His lawyer made an argument.
I was going to say, the weird part of the Miller decision, and people don't understand, is that by a weird quirk, at least, it seems to me, what the Supreme Court said was, well, the Second Amendment actually applies to military firearms, because if you had presented any information that a sawed-off shotgun was pertained to military service, then it would have been covered, which is like saying, okay, you can have the military guns, you just can't have guns that are not in the military.
Right.
That was interesting.
I mean, the Miller decision actually sort of stands for the proposition that the Second Amendment probably does cover AR-15s and what have you.
Exactly.
But by the way, that result was obtained in the U.S. Supreme Court when Mr. Miller's lawyer didn't even show up for the oral arguments in the case and didn't file a brief.
Right.
The only party arguing the case before the U.S. Supreme Court was the Solicitor General of the United States government, and all they were trying to do was trying to get a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that said, well, the National Firearms Act is constitutional because we want to collect a $200 tax on these kind of weapons. But getting back to my original point, people ask me, because your original question was, well, what's changed between 1960 and now? And the answer to that lies in why is there no Second Amendment litigation in the Supreme Court. There are a few cases that deal with the Second Amendment tangentially through our history, but it's because it was so uncontroversial. Everybody in this country, Democrat, Republican, even the old Whigs, it was assumed that, well, of course, every law-abiding person has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of themselves and others. Oh, and by the way, the country was founded on the idea that people could use arms to change their government if it became oppressive. And in fact, the triggering event that caused the revolution back in 1770, mumble, was the English government trying to confiscate arms, powder, and ball from the colonists.
Right.
So,
right. Our Revolutionary War started because of gun control.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. At least it was the triggering event. There was a lot of there were a lot of other issues simmering.
Right, but you're right. But the triggering event was Lexington and Concord. It was, basically they're coming to take our guns and our ball and our powder away. Don, I'm going to get you to hold for the break here, because when we come back, I know you teach this stuff. I want to know where lawyers are, where law students are right now, because I think that maybe that's an interesting area where maybe law schools have not covered that, or maybe they're covering it differently these days. I don't know. We're talking with Don Kilmer. If you want to see what he's up to, take a look at tkgunlaw.com. Fascinating conversation. We'll be right back.
The hunt is on with the TC Compass from Thompson Center. The TC Compass bolt-action rifle delivers the accuracy, reliability, and functionality you expect from a Thompson Center rifle at a price that matches your budget. Available in your favorite center-fire chamberings. All TC Compass rifles have threaded barrels for use with suppressors, compensators, and muzzle brakes. And they're backed by Thompson Center's Minute of Angle Guarantee. Accurate, affordable, American-made. The TC Compass. Find out more at tcarms.com.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
If you're a hardcore duck hunter, Mossberg has a gun for you. The new Pro Series shotguns were designed and built to be the most reliable, most durable semi-automatic duck guns anywhere. Rain, ice, snow, it doesn't matter. When the weather gets tough, these new Mossberg shotguns will keep the shot flying and the ducks falling. This season, don't leave anything to chance. Head to your blind with one of the new Pro Series shotguns from Mossberg. Great performance at a great price. Learn more at mossberg.com.
If you're like me, you don't have money to burn, but you still want to buy guns, ammo, and accessories. That's why we created Gun Dealio. That's a free smartphone app. Just download it and start getting the deals. Could be discounts, offers of free magazines for your gun, or you could be the first to hear about new stuff from gun makers. Here's how it works. With Gun Dealio on your phone, you get alerts when you enter a gun store. Special deals, you know. You don't have to do a thing. It'll do a lot of other cool things, like let you watch gun videos and listen to Gun Talk podcast. Plus, check it anytime for hundreds of deals and offers. Getting more while spending less. Smart, huh? Gun Dealio. Made in America. Gluten-free. At the App Store and Google Play or gundealio.com.
Responsible owners control access to their firearms, even when they may need them in a hurry. Liberty Safe, the nation's leader in gun safes, offers 6 models of handgun vaults. Strong, simple to use, open with a key or fingerprint. Put your handgun in the compact vault, lock it away until you need it. Then it's in your hand almost instantly. Pick the Liberty Safe handgun vault that's right for you. LibertySafeHD.com.
talking with Don Kilmer, who is a gun rights lawyer, among other things, but also a law professor. And I got a couple of things I want to talk about, Don, and we'll bounce to the other in just a second. But first off, in light of the Heller decision, and you're teaching this at law school level, do law students, are they getting the Second Amendment now? My sense has been in the past they were all told it was kind of a lesser thing. You know, the Sanford Levinson, the embarrassing Second Amendment, it's not a real right, blah, blah, blah. Has that changed?
I believe it is changing. When I went through law school, the only place you could find the Second Amendment was in the appendix to the case book, where they just printed out the Constitution, and the publisher actually went ahead and published it right alongside the Third Amendment about quartering troops. But there was no case law or nothing really discussed about the case, or at least with regard to the Second Amendment. There were cases that dealt with some gun issues, like the Lopez decision and what have you, but that wasn't really a Second Amendment case. It was a state right or state powers case. But now because of Heller and McDonald, those cases are featured front and center in most of the case books, even by the professors who are admittedly and openly anti-gun, or at least want to restrict gun rights. So I think the Second Amendment is getting pretty decent treatment in the academic world now, as far as being taken seriously in their serious scholarship. The Sanford Levinson article is interesting that you mention it, because although the title of the article is The Embarrassing Second Amendment, his real thesis is that we have to take it seriously or repeal it. Stanford was not. Professor Levinson isn't necessarily pro-gun, but he was pro-Constitution and said it's time to take it seriously or repeal it. Well,
even Lawrence Tribe came out and said, "Look, I don't like it, but this is a real right. We got to, we're going to have to at least acknowledge that this is an actual right."
Yeah, the seminal article, of course, was Don Cates's Michigan Law Review article on, whether or not handguns were protected arms or not, which is kind of the article that kicked off the great academic debate on the Second Amendment back in the late 70s. And Don was a mentor of mine and a beloved friend. In fact, not to be a downer on your show, but actually a year ago today, I was actually attending his funeral in southern Washington. We lost a great advocate and an academic mind on the Second Amendment when he passed away a year ago.
One of the giants. All right, let me bounce to something else. I found this on your website. I love this.
Sure.
Exercise all your rights because cases involving firearms are fraught with the risk of criminal sanctions. We offer the following overview and general advice pending a confidential consultation. Do not talk to the police except to identify yourself. That means you do not talk to any uniformed police officers, plainclothes detectives, forensic technicians, CHP, district attorney investigators, your buddy who is a cop, parking meter attendants, and it goes on and on. I have heard that before. You are the attorney. Is that what we should be doing? In anything that, you get into a shooting situation, you get into a self-defense situation, or maybe even just, hey, they're coming and knocking on the door and, hey, we want to take a look at your guns. What do you do? You invoke your rights. They're not rights if you don't exercise them. I don't care who you are. I've actually represented a number of police officers when they've gotten in trouble for firearm-related issues, and they're smart enough to invoke their rights and remain silent and deal through their attorney. And yeah, it might be inconvenient. It didn't happen to these police officers I represented, but yeah, you might spend the night in jail, and you might have to bail out, and you might have a broken safe or a broken lock on your gun case. But that pales in comparison to the tens of thousands of dollars that you will spend on a criminal defense to try and keep yourself out of prison. Let me jump in here because you said something. I want people to understand what you just said. You may have a broken gun safe or a broken gun case. The point being, if they say, well, you need to open your safe, and you say, well, I don't consent to searches, and they say, well, if you don't open it, then we're going to break it open as a way of saying, you say, well, okay, if you're going to break it open anyway, I'm going to open it. What you're saying is, if you open it, that can be construed as consent, so don't open it, even if they're going to break it open.
Yeah, the only exception, and I kind of somewhat explain that first of all, you cannot never interfere in a police officer performing what he thinks is his duty.
Right.
Even
Don't try
if
to
he's
stop
wrong
him.
and you think he's right, A, he's carrying a gun and he's got backup, but B, your recourse is the court system, okay? Mm-hmm. And you are destroying evidence. You're destroying evidence in your own defense if you consent to a search of something that is not in the warrant. Now, if they hand you a warrant that says, and a warrant is basically an order from a court that says, you, police officer, you are authorized to search the following places for the following items. Now, if that warrant says you're authorized to go to this person's house and search their safe and their containers and their home for evidence of a gun crime or for a particular gun with a particular serial number on it, then you can probably then open the safe because it's named in the warrant, and you're saving yourself the cost of a broken safe. Mm-hmm. But if they show up with a search warrant that says just search for something, my advice is deal with the broken safe. And it's cheaper than dealing with having to pay somebody like me to try and prove to a court that you didn't consent when you opened the safe.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more information there with some details on your website. I want to direct people there again, dkgunlaw.com. Don, I've always thought of you as one of the really smart guys. When I hang around with you guys, I always feel like the dumbest guy in the room. I appreciate you letting me kind of tag along occasionally.
Well, last time I think that we broke bread together was in Tampa, and I had a really enjoyable time. And you're absolutely wrong that you're not a bright guy, and that I think you're the smartest guy at the table because you're getting the message out to a lot more people than I do. I'm a lawyer. I represent people. I'm a professor. I teach students. But your work in getting out the basically preaching the gospel on Sunday afternoons and whatever you schedule this is much more important to my work, okay, than the little cases I win.
I appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for what you do. Don Kilmer is dkgunlaw.com. Check it out. It has this page on your rights. You need to read this, know it, print it out, study it, and share it with your family members about what you do. Cases like that. Not talking about obstruction, just saying don't do anything to hurt your case. I mean, it's a different deal altogether. We'll talk ballistics and guns when we come back right here on Gun Talk.
Gun Talk encourages you to support the local sporting goods store, gun stores, ATV dealers, and other local businesses in your area who advertise on this station and Gun Talk. Only together can we protect our rights. You're listening to Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
All righty, welcome back to Gun Talk, where we talk about ammunition here. And to kick it off here, let's talk with Frank. He's on line 2 out of Oklahoma. Hey, Frank, what ammo are you looking at here?
Okay, one of them is the ARX defensive rounds, Ruger and Interceptor. And then there's another one I stumbled on, too, but I didn't know if the bullet would be heavy enough in the 45 ACP, but I believe it's Liberty. That's either what they called it or the manufacturer. 78 grain defensive 45 ACP.
Right, and you might also throw into the mix Black Hills Ammunition. They have a round called the Honey Badger, and it's a metal copper bullet that looks kind of like the ARX, the Inceptor. By the way, the whole Inceptor polycase thing, they just were purchased, and I think they're dropping the polycase name. They're going to be called Inceptor, but we're still figuring that whole deal out. But that's a kind of a matrix deal. What we're talking about here, and it's a fascinating subject, and I'm glad you brought it up, is we're talking about defensive ammunition that is not expanding ammunition, not expanding bullets. It causes trauma as though it were an expanding bullet, but the bullet doesn't expand. As a result, they're using lighter weight bullets that go a little bit faster, not necessarily a lot faster, but you end up with a good bit less recoil. And I will tell you, to date, what I have seen in ballistic gelatin using this technology, this new bullet technology, I am super impressed with what it is doing out there. Now, I don't know about the Liberty. That's a different style of bullet. But the ARX Inceptor and the Honey Badger is how do you put it? It's a solid bullet, but it's not round nose. It's got like cutouts. So, or you know what? The proper word might be scoops. Think of scoops cut out of the nose so that when it pushes into a fluid medium, i.e. tissue, it's like, I'd say it's like putting your thumb over the end of a garden hose and sprays it out there. I'll tell you what, let me do this. Frank, you just keep listening here. I got the guy on hold right now that knows all about this. Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammunition is going to join us to tell us all about this. Jeff, we had a question about the whole idea of these non-expanding bullets used for self-defense like the Honey Badger. And I was trying to explain how this system works. It kind of redirects fluids shooting out to the side, doesn't it?
That's correct, Tom. It's a non-expanding, non-deforming, non-fragmenting bullet. You described it pretty good with the scoops. I call them flutes. Mm-hmm. And what it does is the bullet is traveling through tissue. It redirects and focuses the tissue, and that's part of the wound mechanism for it. And it sounds a little spacey, but it works real well. It's very impressive in gel. It'll outperform conventional hollow points while at the same time offering better barrier performance and uniformity because it doesn't have some of the things that can cause a hollow point to fail, like a hollow point that'll plug shut.
Well, it's funny you mentioned it. I've got a friend, and you and I talked last week, and I know you do a lot of work with Special Forces units and come up with some interesting loads. But this guy does that kind of work, and he was telling me about, frankly, it's some guy they shot, and the hollow point ammo they were using out of their rounds, I'm not going to say what they were plugging up with clothing, and they were not expanding exactly to the point you're making.
Yep, that can happen. And with this design, it will just cut through, push that material out of the way, so it not only doesn't have a hollow point to plug shut, but it actually aids in penetration through barriers like heavy clothing or even car body metal. Say if you had to engage an assailant through that's taken cover behind a car door, it works real well on things like that typically give hollow points a lot of trouble.
You actually do crazy things like that. Take out car doors and shoot through them, don't you?
We do that. Actually, most of the time what we do is we use the FBI standard simulation for a car door, which is 2 layers of 20-gauge steel separated by a 2x4. And we also do car windshields. We do sheetrock. We do heavy clothing. About anything that you can think of that might be a commonly encountered barrier that could be a problem, we test for it.
Well, I'm just going to tell people, when I talked to you this week, the thing I wanted to ask you, frankly, was in light of these truck attacks, what load would you recommend in a handgun to get good penetration through glass? Because in my mind, I'm going through this whole deal of this guy's coming through with a truck, and I need to shoot through a windshield or through side glass. And you said the Honey Badger is a pretty good choice.
This works real well. It will penetrate the glass without fragmenting. It in our testing so far, it tends to travel straight and true, retains 100% or nearly 100% of its weight, still is effective when it gets there. So you're right. Something like this would work in a situation like that. It would work pretty good.
Now, you said something when we started about this. One of the failings of hollow point ammo is sometimes they don't expand. And if you will, pardon the pun, expand upon that a little bit. What you need to get a hollow point bullet to expand is a lot of energy, which you get by virtue of velocity. And as we have gone to smaller calibers and smaller guns, you give up some of that velocity, don't you?
That's correct. Things like 380s and short barrel 38 specials are a real good example of that. They're really popular as a defense gun because they're portable. They're easy to conceal, but at the same time, you sacrifice velocity. And most ammunition is designed to operate at velocities that sometimes you don't get with short-barreled guns. So this is a big advantage. We make a Honey Badger load in .38 Special. It gives you, about 980 or 1,000 feet per second out of a 2-inch gun.
Ooh.
And it will outperform hollow points just hands down in those short-barreled revolvers. It can't plug shut. It can't overexpand. It tends to cut through barriers, and still it's very effective when it gets where it has to do some work. We simulate it with 10% ballistic gelatin, which is the universally recognized stimulant for human tissue. So,
and these are a little bit lighter bullets, so you get a little bit less recoil too.
Yep, it's 130 in a .38 Special 2-inch. It's a 100-grain bullet, and it's doing right at 1,000 feet per second. Now, a lot of the old-time shooters with a lot of experience will look at it and say, "Hey, Jeff, I'm not trying to shoot chipmunks here. I need 125 or 158 grain bullets to do any work." And that might be true if you were talking about a standard bullet, but this bullet, it's solid copper, so it can't over-fragment. It can't overexpand, which would lead to fragmentation. And if it overexpands, typically that means that it's not going to penetrate very far. Even out of a 2-inch revolver, this thing penetrates typically about 18 inches in ballistic gelatin, which I mentioned is the standard for testing penetration and expansion and temporary cavity of bullets. Right. Whereas, if you got a hollow point to expand, say if you used a lightweight hollow point at that weight to get it to that velocity, to get it to expand, you'd be lucky to hit 12 inches. You probably wouldn't ever hit 12 inches with an expanding bullet out of a snubby.
Right. Hey, Jeff, hold on a second here. I want to talk more bullets and ammo and everything else. We're talking with Jeff Hoffman, the president of Black Hills Ammunition. If you got an ammunition question, by all means, now's your time. He is the answer man. He is the guru of this stuff. Tested all the time. Serious, long-time shooter, long-time law enforcement, and supplier to some very elite units out there. Our number is 866-TALK-GUN. Be right back.
Want your next gun purchase to be fast and hassle-free? Well, at galleryofguns.com, you can search through thousands of models from our huge firearms inventory. Find a great offer from a local dealer that includes all fees and taxes. And there's no need to arrange a transfer. Gallery of Guns takes a small deposit on your credit card, and your gun will be at your chosen dealer in as little as 48 hours. Plus, your gun will be covered by our guaranteed lifetime replacement warranty. GalleryofGuns.com. Search, find, buy. It really is just that easy.
Get ready for something totally new from LMT. A short personal defense weapon with an integral suppressor. Featuring new suppressor technology from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, the CSW, or Confined Space Weapon, has a 24-inch overall length profile and includes their new high-performance suppressor that can shoot supersonic and subsonic ammunition with no changes. Chambered for the 300 blackout, the CSW allows quick movement in tight quarters. For more, visit lmtdefense.com.
If you carry a gun, you need training. Your concealed carry class was definitely not training. But time, money, and obligations keep you from spending days at a shooting school. The trusted folks at Gun Talk can help. Concealed Carry 1, our DVD featuring the VADA Group, covers what gun, what holster, how to carry, where to wear your gun, and much more. Visit shopguntalk.com. That's shopguntalk.com. Look, this really is life and death. Learn how to stay aware, how to get away, and how to fight if you must. At shopguntalk.com, you can get the 2 DVD set, including Fighting with the 1911 with Tiger McKee. No matter what gun you carry, this vital training info can save your life. Learn the draw, the stance, reloading, vital gear from Gun Talk. That's shopguntalk.com. Shopguntalk.com.
Perhaps more than any other landscape,
Wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. The time is now to band together. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Face it, sometimes more is better. That's the idea behind the double-stack, full-capacity pistols from Springfield Armory. From the groundbreaking XD to the ergonomic XDM to the latest refinements in the XD Mod 2 series, you can get subcompact, midsize, and full-size pistols in 9, 40, and 45. Carry, target, or tactical models. Fast, accurate, dependable. Don't come up short when it matters. Go full cap. Go Springfield Armory. Springfield-Armory.com.
All right, we're talking with Jeff Hoffman, the originator and the president of Black Hills Ammunition up in Rapid City, South Dakota. Just one of the great companies. I always tell people, look, if your rifle won't shoot well with Black Hills ammo, it's your rifle. It is not the ammo. Now, it might be you, Jeff. Sometimes I'm sure you get people say, hey, this ammo won't shoot. And then you try it and you go, well, it shoots for us.
Yep, you're right, Tom. And part of that is that one time I was talking with an honest-to-goodness scientist, and we were talking about this, and I said, guns have personalities. And he said, oh, absolutely not. Guns are inanimate objects. There's a mechanical explanation for everything. I said, you know what? You're right. But in absence of me knowing the mechanical explanation, guns have personalities.
Since I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, and of course what that means is that you can't judge guns have preferences just like people, you know, so you can't judge the capability of a gun even under the best of circumstances and with the best shooter unless you feed it several different things to see what it likes the best. You take 3 loads out with a rifle, and one of them is going to shoot noticeably better than the others.
And people don't believe that. They say, well, it's a 308, it ought to shoot, You say, yeah, no, but look, I've got 3 different loads here, and chances are, and we like with air quotes around, it's going to like one of those loads better than the other. It's going to shoot smaller groups with it. And I don't know if it's a harmonics deal of the barrel vibration or what it is, but like you said, since I don't know, I'll call it a personality. What do I know?
Yep, and we work at it. It's not that we say, well, you can't dismiss poor performance by saying, well, guns have personalities. You still have to do everything you can to make each load perform as well as possible. In our instance, even our hunting ammunition, we hold it to a minute angle standard, which means we've got a bunch of custom rifles here. If we can't get it to shoot minute angle, we'll go back to the drawing board with it. And even then, you'll find that once it gets out in the field, somebody will say, "Well, gee, Jeff, you said minute angle. It shoots minute and a half in my gun." Well, maybe it does. Well, why don't we send you some more different types of ammo and see what your gun likes?
Interesting. You've got, when I go through your place, and I love going through your place there. You got a lot of people on your staff they're not just people who work at a factory. They're really into guns, aren't they?
We've got a bunch of really dedicated people. I think the average time in service here for us is 7 years, and that includes, the brand newest person, and then people that have been here over 20 years. And so we've got a lot of experience, and people are here because they've got a passion for it. One thing we've learned is that if you look at anybody that's really good at what they're doing, they all have one thing in common. They really enjoy what they're doing, because otherwise you don't put forth enough effort to be really good at it. And our people universally have a passion for what they're doing. They enjoy it.
Absolutely. Okay, Jeff, I've screwed up here. I've taken you to another break. I'm going to hold you over, and I'm going to ask you a hard question. We're talking with Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammo. When you come back, I'm going to say, all right, pick one cartridge for big game hunting in North America. Yeah, I know. That's the old deal. We're going to try it. This guy knows ammo and bullets and cartridges better than anybody I know. Who better to ask? 866-TALK-GUN. We'll be right back. right, got to ask Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammo the question. Jeff, you got to go out and hunt anything in North America, big game hunting. What caliber, what cartridge are you going to be carrying?
If you had to have one rifle cartridge that would allow you to cover everything, I would say probably the 300 Win Mag, or something in that ballistic category. Mm-hmm. If I only had, and there's several ways to answer that question. The way you phrased it, I'd say that one.
Okay, leave out Grizzlies, and how does it change?
I would stay the same, but for most shooters, if you're an avid deer hunter and you might shoot an elk once every 5 or 10 years, then that would change the question some.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a 308?
I would look at. I like 308 a lot. For one reason, it's very accurate. There's a lot of very accurate ammunition. There's a lot of very accurate rifles built for it. It's flat enough shooting, that for the serious student, even for the average hunter, it's a good enough cartridge to get the job done. It's got plenty of power, and it doesn't beat you up. I'm a big believer in spending time practicing, and with a 308, with a 308, you could go through 500 rounds a year, no problem, getting good with it, and then you don't have any problems when you get to the field. With a 300 Win Mag, it costs more and it beats you up more.
Right.
So that's my caveat there. If you're going to do a lot of shooting and you're mainly hunting things as big as mule deer, I kind of like stuff in the 308 category, 308, 30-06, 270.
Yep. Of course, you guys load, I'm looking at least 10 loads in just the hunting side, and you're using bullets from everybody, Hornady, Nosler, Sierra, Barnes. I mean, you'll load any bullet as long as it's a good bullet, you can make it shoot.
We're an assembly plant. That's something good to point out. We don't make our own components. Clint Eastwood's one of my favorite guys, a lot of wisdom there, and he says a man's got to know his limitations. And we are really good at developing good ammunition, but we don't have a manufacturing plant for bullets, brass, powder. What we do is we go to our friends in the industry and select the very best stuff. So we don't. We can watch, and when we hear that somebody's coming out with a new bullet that has a significant advantage, better expansion, better weight retention, better accuracy, higher ballistic coefficient, we go to them and say, "Hey, I think we need that," and then we'll test it and we'll build a load around it in our line of ammunition. Okay. To get the end user the very best product that he can get. We're not tied to just our products.
All right. I know that you're working on new stuff all the time. We're going to be seeing new calibers at SHOT Show, maybe?
Yep. There's at least one new caliber coming. There's some improved loads in several other calibers, and we've got several new Honey Badger loads coming up.
I'm going to tell you, I think the Honey Badger is a home run, and anybody who's considering looking for a good self-defense handgun load ought to take a look at that. It's groundbreaking and it's different. It requires a leap of faith, but it absolutely works, and you guys have tested the heck out of it.
It works good, and I'm one of the original show me guys. Gee whiz stuff. You can talk about it all you want, but you got to show me how it works, and so I understand that. The nice thing that I've got is a ballistic lab within the building. So when I tell somebody show me, we can walk into the next room to do it. And I've seen enough test data on these Honey Badgers. I'm convinced that they really work. There's some really significant advantages here with these things.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much. Best to the family. And if I don't see you before, I will see you at the SHOT Show.
That sounds good, Tom. Look forward to it.
All right. Take care. I always love talking with Jeff. I learn stuff every time I talk with him. We talk about a guy that knows bullets and ammunition. And, by the way, incredible shooter. You want to shoot something small, a long way off, he is your guy. I once saw a fly land on a target at 100 yards. He said, watch this, and just bang, just took it out. A fly. Yeah, that kind of deal. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. When we come back, let's talk about police shootings and what you don't understand about them.